thank my experience with him for teaching me what I needed to learn, which is ultimately to let go.
Namaste, everybody. So today we're going to be talking about shame. And shame is a hot topic for those of us who are adult children of alcoholics, those of us who grew up with emotional neglect, those of us who grew up with moms and dads that were frazzled, who verbally abused us, who hit us in public behind closed doors, who verbally cursed at us in public behind closed doors, the types of homes that our parents were not emotionally regulated. They were disordered, had a hard time figuring things out. Maybe we were raised by behaviorists and thought like, well, we're 3. We should be able to tie our shoes and poop on the potty and not have any needs. And we should not be little narcissistic brats, although every 2 and 3-year-old is, but they shouldn't be. We grew up with parents who didn't really understand what it was that a child needed to feel safe and to grow up into an upright human being that really had high self-esteem. When your parents struggle with shame, they inadvertently infuse that into your being. It's done in so many ways, obvious ways and not so obvious ways. To the frazzled mom who is paying more attention to the child's poop schedule than they are to whether or not the child feels safe and seen and nurtured and understood and given the space to be a baby and to bump into the walls. That's so important. So many of us, I know I was raised by a 19-year-old adult child of an alcoholic that had so much trauma and focused on sending me to private school, which I understand. That was a very wonderful thing that they tried to do, my parents. And they came from a very loving place. They thought, oh, well, if we get the money and send them to private school, that's going to be a good thing because we never had that as children. Our parents didn't care about our education. So they focused on getting us into good schools and making sure that our school uniforms were ironed, that we looked presentable. But what my parents missed, the sin that they made, they missed the mark. They never dealt with their childhood trauma. And in the materialistic view of the world, in the scrubbing of the walls, in the making sure that we look pristine, they missed the mark. They sinned. And the definition of a sin is to miss the mark. They really weren't connecting to us at a soul level. They were so wrapped up in their own head, below the veil of consciousness. And I will be using a couple of styrofoam dummies to exemplify what it is I'm talking about. So those of you who are listening via podcast, you can check it out on my YouTube channel. I will do my best to visually explain or verbally explain what I'm doing visually to those of you who are not watching this via video. And so what happens is that when a parent is so lost in the subconscious mind, so I call him Ed the Head, and it's a white styrofoam head. And poor Ed, I've stuck a toothpick in his eye. I've stuck a toothpick in his nose. I've stuck a toothpick in his mouth. And I've stuck a toothpick in the back of his head. Why? These are the 5 senses. And children are programmed from their environment. And so I have a second styrofoam head, and I've stuck a toothpick into the second styrofoam head. And the sticky note on it says verbal abuse, shame, growing up feeling invisible, emotional neglect, physical neglect, even neglect of medical care, and bullying. So these are just a few things that children are exposed to when they're children. Now, when a child is influenced by this very toxic environment, and I need to say this, there are a lot of toxic parents out there, very well-meaning, that look perfect, and they think they're doing everything right. They're frazzled. They have trauma. They're doing the best that they can based on their level of awareness, but they're mucking it up. They're reducing their child's ability to develop true self-esteem. They are putting themselves at risk for long-term issues with their children by focusing on the children's behavior versus on whether or not the children actually feel safe, seen, and heard in the childhood home. I will also say that the better job that the parents do in compassionate, non-aggressive, non-violent communication between the two of them, the more each parent works on themselves. And we see this. We see where there's a home where there's a lot of friction and the one parent is blaming the other parent, and that was me. I thought everything was more my ex-husband than it was me. And it was quite the wake-up call when after 5 or 6 therapists, a therapist finally said, well, actually, you're codependent. And that comes with its own particular onslaught of issues. And when I grabbed that bone and ran with it like a starving dog, it was quite the wake-up call to realize that I had anxiety and it was undiagnosed and I was clinically depressed and had no clue. I had no sense of self and I did not know what I needed. And I just saw what everybody else needed and took care of those needs and was ticked off that other people weren't doing that for me. I mean, it was so deep and it was so sad at the time. And the worst part was that I was below the veil of consciousness. I was operating in this childhood program, this codependency that was rooted in abandonment trauma, that was rooted in emotional neglect and verbal abuse, and feeling terrified to color outside the line. I was terrified of my mother. I was terrified. I mean, terrified of my mother, terrified of my father, terrified of what they were telling the neighbors about me. I was just terrified. And to wake up and realize, or to have like the lights turned on in my head, to have this aha moment where I'm something, I'm codependent. Like, what the hell does that mean? And I think all too often when we discuss codependency or people pleasing or emotional neglect or childhood trauma, we stop at the surface level. We stop. We don't go deep enough into the subconscious mind. We don't go deep enough into what is the consequence when it comes to me creating the reality that I have. I have jumped timelines. I know that sounds very law of attraction and very quantum, but it's true. I could have died in the codependent timeline, like my mother, like my father, like my alcoholic uncles, like my grandparents, like every person in my family. I could have died at the same level of consciousness that created the problem in my childhood, like members of my families, in my opinion, are doing now. There is no true awakening. There is no true change. It is not enough to know that you have a nail in your tire. Oh, that's a nail in my tire. Oh, I have childhood trauma. Do you know how to fix it? And do you know that that nail will stay in your tire and you will not be able to drive that car until you recognize there's a nail in the tire and that you learn to pull the nail out of that tire? Still not enough. You've got to learn how to fix and repair and inflate that tire. And you have to manage your tire for the rest of your life. And did you know that that nail and that tire is actually you and your childhood programming? You didn't put it in your subconscious mind, but it is there. And so I want to jump to helping everybody understand how this happens, how we can be infused with shame our entire life, have low self-worth, become codependent or narcissistic, or a combination of both, become avoidant, develop even borderline personality disorder. In my opinion, I am of the opinion that borderline personality disorder is a consequence of trauma and being raised by a narcissistic parent, living in fear for your entire life, feeling abandoned, feeling judged, being afraid of your parents to the point where you have to develop such a hard core that you're rejecting people to preserve yourself. Very sad. And you get hit with this diagnosis, you go on medication. Medication is very helpful for this disorder. But oftentimes we're really not getting to the root because so many people who are diagnosed with the disorder, they feel so much shame. And I'm here to tell you that if you have a disorder, it's because your mind is out of order Why? Because you didn't get what you needed when you were a child to have your mind develop in a specific healthy order. You cannot develop self-esteem if you have parents who don't allow you to develop a self. You can't. That's not your fault. The good news is you can find your true self. The caveat to that is that it's going to take everything you've got. Someone like me, I've come along, I've figured this out, and I create systems, I create methods, I create processes to help you navigate getting out of the subconscious paradigm. I help you also in level 2 of the Conscious Healing Academy. I help you learn how to manage your emotions as tools, not only for transformation, but for manifestation. In level 3, Soul School, we take you further. Now that you've broken through, the 12-week breakthrough method helps you break through. It gets you primed for the next level. This is a journey of transformation. Level 2, we teach you how to master your emotions as energy, because that's all you are, is energy, and the quantum field is responding to you. So we got to figure out what you're responding to. I hope you wrote that down. And level 3, we take all of this information and we help you expand your consciousness beyond the barrier of your ego identity. Fabulous. But this does not happen overnight. I know, because I've traveled this journey. I'm still on this journey. I'm still unraveling, and I'm still excited about the potential that we have via the internet, via meditations, via this incredible work that we all have access to for free, by the way, to transform our lives. I don't think it's any coincidence that during the reign of Hitler, the speed of light seemed to dip into a lower frequency. We like to think that everything is constant, but the universe is even responding to global consciousness. And after the reign of this madman, we could see that the variable of the speed of light actually began to tick up again. This is incredible information. Scientists have yet to say, wow, they're afraid of it, in my opinion. These people who believe in the Darwinian way of looking at things, this material way of looking at things, they like to think that everything's completely constant. There are absolute laws that govern time and space, but we as consciousness are interfacing with these laws, and the quantum field is responding to us on an individual level as well as a global level. And that's really important information. To me, I find hope in that, because it's like all is not lost. So I want to follow those breadcrumbs. I want to know what it's like to snap into a different timeline. If you're telling me, and I'm telling you, that trauma is going to lock you into a particular timeline, it's going to pigeonhole your consciousness. It's going to pigeonhole what you see. It's going to pigeonhole what you see at the subconscious level. So the bottom half of if you take this styrofoam head and you cut it into like 1/4, then the top of the head would be the 5% of your consciousness, and the lower portion, including the back of your brain, would represent the 95% of you, the 95% of you, of your conscious mind that is running the ship. So whatever you experienced in childhood has been seen through your 5 senses and experienced. And through your 5 senses, think about your eyes, your eyes, the optic nerve. Think about the auditory nerves for your ears. Think about what you smelled as a child. Think about what you tasted. Think about what you felt as a child. All of this input is going into your brain, and it gets stored. Not only gets stored in the amygdala and the hippocampus, but it gets stored viscerally in the cells of your body. And again, science doesn't like to say that, but that is a reality. Science likes to say, oh, your mind is in your brain. No, it's not. See, that freaks scientists out. But the truth is that your mind is not in your brain. Your brain is an organ, and they work in conjunction with one another. So you need the brain to have a mind that is working through a physical apparatus. But beyond mind is this thing called consciousness, and that can be expanded. And depending on how well you pay attention to this work and how well you're able to expand your perception and your view of yourself will determine what timeline you stay on. So if your timeline keeps you stuck in trauma like it did with my mom and my dad, you will stay in that particular timeline, and your life is holographic, and it will progress, and you will eventually, I would say, croak in that timeline, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can wake up at 68. You can wake up at 78. I'm currently coaching a woman who's 83 years old. Like it doesn't, that's irrelevant. You can wake up and start ascending and transforming at any age. So try not to let age freak you out. My life didn't take off until I met Anthony at 45, but about 42, 43, 44, it was like, oh wow, I was really grabbing hold of this, and my life transformed relatively quickly and rapidly once I really grabbed hold of this information, and I'd never let go. I would have never thought at 45 years old, single with 3 children, working as a personal trainer, cleaning houses and selling tents, that in a relatively short amount of time, literally in a short amount of time, within 5 years, 6, 7 years, I would have a thriving YouTube channel. I would have written a #1 best-selling book on Amazon. I would have written 7 best-selling books. I would have been nominated the most influential person during COVID in 2020. Me? Yeah. Just saying, Gary Vee was #2. I think Jay Shetty was #8 in 2020. This was not a paid advertisement, and this is not a boasting, oh, look at me, I'm so great. Like, this blew my mind. Like, how could this happen? It was just alignment. So if I could go from being this single mom, divorced mom, adult child of an alcoholic, I was depressed, I had suicidal ideation, I was struggling to make ends meet at one point. If I can, in a short amount of time, jump timelines and create this mission-based business and even be talking to you right now, I'm not a unicorn. It's possible for anybody. And in this time, what I've done is once I woke up, it's like, now all I want to do is share this information with everybody so they can awaken. But it's not enough to like, oh, I was traumatized as a child. Oh, I'm going to be a little less codependent. Oh, I'm going to set better boundaries. Oh, I'm going to really focus on self-care. That's not enough. You really have to understand the power of an organized mind and this idea that the field is alive with infinite potentials for you. But if you can't dream it, you can't create it. So let's talk a little bit more about how shame gets downloaded into the subconscious mind. So for those of you who are listening, imagine two styrofoam faces facing one another. The one to the right represents, and they're facing one another, nose to nose. The one to the right represents childhood. And what is being broadcast is to a child, not only through words, but through energy and emotions. Now, understand that parents are more in their head, but children, think about the styrofoam head in my left hand now, children are emotional. So even though mom is in her head and she doesn't mean, you effing little brat, you get the hell away from me, what's wrong with you? And she's using all this language, even though she doesn't mean it because she's in her head, right? She's also reacting to her emotions. Her little girl or her little boy can't help but absorb emotionally what she's saying. That's really important. I want everybody to understand and imagine that you have these portals where you are perceiving sense information. So the brain is constantly receiving sense data. So what you see, mom's pursed lips, the anger and the fury in her eyes, mom and dad are arguing, or dad and dad, mom and mom, whatever. What you sense, what you smell, what food you're eating, how you process food in the middle of an argument, whether or not you're hungry and anybody cares about you, what you're feeling. Are you being yanked by the hair? Are you being hit? Are you being roughly treated? I remember distinctively as a little girl, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, 6, 7 years old, when my mother brushed my hair, I was terrified because she was so rough. And I used to think, is she trying to hurt me? Because it felt like she was trying to hurt me. I could feel her aggression. When she grabbed me, everything was a grab. She broke my skin a few times. Like, I remember this like it was yesterday. What I was craving was a consistent motherly hug. Like, you're okay. Let's figure this out. I never got it. Ever, never got it. And that's another session where you have to release your fantasy about this loving relationship that you're going to have with your mom. You might never have it. Or this loving fantasy, all the rescuing you do as a child, a codependent child for your siblings. Lots of times, I would say more often than not, it doesn't work out the way your fantasy mind hoped it would. That just represents a program from childhood. And so when there is verbal abuse and there's a lot of aggression on the outside, then the child does not feel good enough. And then what ends up happening is we develop a program. So I have a small index card here, and I wrote the program, I am not enough. So now what I've done is, my husband's helped me, is I've slit this styrofoam head in half from ear to ear. And I just slide this card down into the middle of the styrofoam head, and Ed, the head, is being downloaded at the subconscious mind for what? I am not enough. Now here's where things get really amazing, and I really hope one day that science, neuroscience and quantum science and spirituality and metaphysics finally get over themselves and start to merge, because we are this merged multidimensional human being. So to look at me like I am a cell on a petri dish and not understand that that cell has consciousness, hello, you're not doing me any favors, doc. So you go to the doctor, you have some diverticulitis like I did, and they tell you, oh, take this antibiotic. You're not fixing the problem. For me, it's burnout. It's overwhelm. It's trying to take care of people that never took care of me in my family. It's worrying about how other people feel and taking care of other people on an emotional level, physical, sometimes even financial level, and then realizing that these people don't ever consider me. But here I am holding on until they do something that's so egregious that I can't turn away anymore. That was really upsetting for me. And so that's where my diverticulitis and my vagus nerve intersected, and everything that I had repressed since childhood began to surface. So my point is that I am a spiritual, emotional being. So sure, you could take out a piece of my colon and you can say, oh, your colon is responding to X, Y, and Z, and here's medication to fix it. You're not solving the problem, because I am a metaphysical, non-physical being as much as I am a colon that now has this terrible infection. Super important that we all understand that. So we have this I'm not enough program. Why? Because we've been programmed to feel not enough. What are we not enough for? Well, what's the opposite of all these things that mom and dad are offering? I don't feel safe. So I'm not enough because I don't feel safe, and I don't feel safe because I'm broken and I'm not good enough for mom and dad to make me feel safe. Oh, they're upset, so I must be a bad little girl or a bad little boy. Oh, I got 100 on my test instead of 105. Or I wet the bed last night, and that's mommy and daddy are fighting. It's all my fault. Children are egocentric. They think everything that's happening outside of them is because of something they've done. Some children will develop codependency as the compensation, and they will shut down and they will be hypervigilant, and they would try to be the peacekeeper and not be a burden. Other children get the chip on their shoulder and they become more narcissistic as a defense. Whatever it is, it's a consequence of what's happening outside of them. They do not feel safe when they develop the I am not enough stuff. Okay. So let me just walk you through what my markups on this styrofoam head represent. So between the subconscious mind and the conscious mind, think about a veil. Now the veil separates the subconscious mind from the conscious mind. That's why my 12-week class is called the 12-week breakthrough method, because you have to break through from the subconscious mind to the conscious mind. You have to organize the conscious mind in order to organize the subconscious mind. It could be no other way. And so we increase metacognition, which is that happens in the prefrontal lobe and the neocortex. Most people who have trauma, and most people on planet Earth, they operate from the amygdala and the hippocampus below the veil of consciousness, and do not recognize that what has been programmed, I'm not enough stuff or whatever, what has been programmed is what they see with their inner eye. And with this inner eye, it's what they project, and that's what they see in the outside world. So if you grew up feeling not good enough, chances are when your friends are together, you're scouring that friend group for conversation, for language, and for body movements, and for behaviors that tell you that you're not enough. And guess what? You will see it. And you could have 5 women in a group, and you could be the one that's like, she doesn't like me. And all the other people are like, she does like you. Like, this is all in your head, but you won't believe it. because you have the I am not enough program, and your brain must work with you to prove you right. This is trauma. This is trauma. Your brain works to prove you're not enough. And so the same thing with narcissists. So narcissists who nobody wants me, right? Nobody wants me. Nobody likes me. Think about a vulnerable narcissist. Now, this person who believes that nobody likes them, if they're highly narcissistic, they become impossible. They become paranoid. They don't trust anyone. They are pushing everyone away. They are accusatory. They are projecting. They are gaslighting. They lack self-awareness. They do not care how their words affect you. They want you to care how your words affect them, but they do not care about how their words affect you. They will go after your career. They will go after your children. They will go after your relationship. They will go after everything that you love, and they will not care. And when you challenge them back, they are shocked. What do you mean you're angry at me? Like, that's an impossible person to deal with. But that person lacks self-awareness, and they are impossible to deal with. They are programmed due to childhood trauma, and their ego defense mechanism was to become hypervigilant and to be so on guard of anybody who does anything wrong to them that they become impossible to deal with on the outside. You cannot make a covert narcissist, vulnerable narcissist, happy. You will always be the villain. They will always see something in you that's calculating. Meanwhile, it's them, but their program will be projected from the subconscious mind through the visual cortex, through the visual center, and they will see you as the perpetrator. Meanwhile, they're perpetrating. They're the perpetrator. They're the one who are projecting and gaslighting you. They won't see it. So the best thing that you can do is just namaste, walk away, and limit your time with this person until they have a come to Jesus moment. Take a cold shower and start looking at themselves and delving into their childhood. A codependent has a much greater chance of being able to do that because they're used to carrying the shame and they're used to thinking it's them. And so that's why I work primarily with those of us who struggle with codependency, because these are people who ache to know what's wrong, and they care so much about the people in their life. When they realize, like, oh my God, I'm doing something, they become obsessed with fixing themselves, which is terrific. So what we have to do along the way, and we can, is we don't wait for the outside world. We don't wait for mama to wake up and stop drinking. We don't wait for our siblings to say, wow, I see what you see now. We don't wait for our spouse to turn around and start validating what we're saying. We don't wait for permission to feel our feelings. We go full on into recovery. We focus on healing the self. We focus on understanding ourselves, what went wrong at the subconscious level. And in time, what happens is that was upside down. In time, what happens is we develop a new program. And it is the I am enough program. It could be no other way program. It was never my fault program. So we don't wait as codependents on the recovery journey for the outside world to shift. We shift the inner world. And when we shift the inner world and we start telling ourselves that, wait a minute, I am enough. We just focus on the self. Don't focus on the outside world. You correct your thoughts first. When you correct your thoughts, I am enough, you program the subconscious mind. Now, Amy, the amygdala, calms down. Harry, the hippocampus, calms down. The reticular activating system, which is a bundle of nerves, think of the reticular activating system as the gatekeepers. Whatever you focus on, Lisa, the reticular activating system is paying attention. So if we're looking for people who are offensive, if we're looking for people who we can complain about, that we gossip about, if that's what you want me to focus on, if you want me to focus on abandonment and being treated poorly, I'll focus on that all day long. That's what happens. And that hijacks what you're thinking about. that information filters up through the conscious mind. That becomes what you see with your inner eye. That becomes what you see with your outer eye. And guess what? You've now created this feedback system. So shame is a big deal. The other thing that I want everyone to understand is that when you're shame-based, what do you attract? You attract people who shame you. When you are shame-based, you attract situations that reinforce the I am not enough stuff. And that is why I know when I was on the healing, I'm still on the healing path. I will never give up. Like, this is fabulous, fabulous work. And my life gets better and better and better and better. I don't want to die primarily because I'm like, wow, I've gone this far. How far else can I go? Like, I'm really excited about that potential now that I cracked the code. And now that I understand how trauma interfaces actually with the nature of reality for an individual. Now I know that consciousness is an ocean, and I'm a drop of water in that ocean, and I can affect the outside by controlling what is inside me as an individual in my ocean. So my inner world is a droplet. When I control what's happening in the energy of that droplet, I project a new reality into the quantum field, and the quantum field responds. It's no different than trauma. We see it. Why do adult children of alcoholics marry alcoholics? Why do children of alcoholics have a higher risk of developing an addiction? We like to say it's chemical. Well, if I'm an alcoholic and I've never learned to soothe me, I have anxiety. I am not emotionally regulating myself, and I'm not emotionally regulating my children. So what does my child do? My child looks to a chemical, an outside source, to be the warm blanket that I never was. But we like to say, oh, it's chemical. It could be. There could be a genetic component to this. But if the mother and the father are not emotionally regulating, if the mother and the father are not their own safe place, then they have there's a much higher likelihood that their children will not feel safe. And their children will have to go into the outside world, either become codependent and emotionally dependent upon the world to make them feel safe and be a basket case of anxiety because you can't control other people. A codependent child will attract narcissists and not feel unworthy, and the whole thing will start all over again. And then some children will grow up and they will become even narcissistic. Some children will grow up and rely on drugs and alcohol or weed to help them soothe themselves. So we like to say that it's biology, but I think it really is more the environment. That is why it is so important for adult children of alcoholics, those of us who were raised by alcoholic adult children of alcoholics who never recovered. I believe that my mother was a dry alcoholic, and both her parents were alcoholic, and she did no recovery work. Hello. So yeah, I'm an ACOA, and my children are grandchildren of alcoholics. But I've broken the cycle. It took me a while to get here, but I'm so grateful that I have. I have learned to emotionally regulate. I take care of my SH, you know what. I take care of it for me. And now I'm an anchor, and now I can help my children. I can help them co-regulate because I've learned how to do it. That is me breaking the cycle. I no longer carry shame. It's not for me to carry. No more. It could have been no other way. I've worked tirelessly at healing shame. So now when I look inside myself, I have compassion for myself. I have compassion for my inner child. I have compassion for the, out of her wits young mom that I was. I've had to offer myself compassion so that I can get to a place where I feel grounded and shame no longer controls me. I no longer see shame outside of me, although I do see it when someone tries to shame me. But this time it's like, oh, you're a shamer. I don't take on the shame. I'm like, oh, you're a shamer. Oh, that's what you're trying to shame me. It is liberating. So I really hope that Ed the Head and these diagrams and the way that I've tried to visually help you understand what's happening at the subconscious level has been helpful. It is an honor to serve your expansion through understanding the self at a subconscious level and then taking it a step further and imagining how your reality has come to pass due to what has been downloaded into the subconscious mind that you were unaware of. Hopefully you're breaking through. If you'd like to learn how I can help you continue on this journey, visit www.lisaaromano.com. I highly recommend beginning with a 12-week breakthrough method. It's 50% off the original price, and you can start today. Namaste, everybody. You are enough. As I bow to the love and light that is absolutely in you.
If you love this content, don't forget to check out the next video, and you can go to my website and take the codependency quiz.